Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of LostinTranslationmon. This time we're covering Digimon Ghost Game episode 41, Clown. I'm May, and I'm joined by the lovely Quinn.
Hi.
And of course, the equally lovely Chloe.
Hello.
So before we get into this week's episode, let's do a previously on Dragon Ball Ghost Game. So Quinn wasn't here for thought giving for episode 40. So Quinn, what did you think about episode 40?
It was fine. It was a little underwhelming. I was hoping for a little more out of the pretty good preview that we had. As it was, Kalmarimon was at least an interesting sort of villain of the week. I dug the energy. I was very into I'm just making things better. Duh. Yeah, it was fine. The Gamamon plot was a lot. I didn't hate the idea, but it sure was a lot in execution that could have been toned down a little and maybe had less flashbacks to immediately before the commercial break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or they could have even made it like, a little subtle and not make it just the exact same situation between the girl and her dog and Hiro and Gamma.
Yeah. At very least, you could have maybe had it be a girl and her friend having a fight instead of just literally a dog.
Mm-hmm. The exact same thing.
Dog that bit a tablet.
Because they pointed out, the dog bit the tablet. That honestly, for a hot second, made me think that it wasn't Gamamon, it was like this secondary monster of the week, which was just a Digimon that was just going around eating tablets, and that's why Gamamon
very fully.
Yeah, I thought that Gamamon was upset because he was being blamed for something that he didn't do. So the fact that it just straight up was the dog doing the exact same thing that Gamamon did felt just weird.
The thought of it being another Digimon of the week didn't even cross my mind, honestly.
Oh, yeah, no, Gamamon just seemed so very obviously guilty and petty about it for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, and especially with the teeth marks matching perfectly.
Like a 45-second internal monologue giving me something would have helped.
But who's your favourite character?
Oh, that's a reasonable question. I'll go with Kalmarimon, just as a, change of pace. We did something weird and different for the Monster of the Week, and while we're sure gonna have forgotten about it somehow, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I like Kalmarimon. What was your rating out of 5?
A 3, I think. It had good parts, but on the whole,
And that means that altogether that gets an overall ranking of 7 with all three of us's answers. So that means that it is tied with.
Wait, it has a 7 with all three of us?
Yeah.
What did you give it?
A 0.
What?
I
really?
I really didn't like. I just felt like I always hate the partner Digimon and human partner are fighting for a dumb, petty reason. So I always hate those episodes.
Yeah.
They really annoy me because they tend to be really petty. Like, it was the same case in Atmon. It was just, they were just fighting because one was jealous.
And we did finally bring back the whole Jellymon at least can have multiple partners, which is... It was cool, but it was barely... But it was barely mentioned. I literally didn't notice it until Chloe pointed it out to me because it was, looked away from the screen for 4 seconds and it didn't matter at all to the plot.
Yeah, because she was tangled so she couldn't attack, so it literally did nothing.
They just wanted to remind us that they didn't actually forget.
But it's such a blink and you'll miss it moment. I felt like it had so much potential to do a lot of things. It just had a lot that just really annoyed me about the episode. I don't disagree
with you in broad strokes. I didn't hate it as much as you did, but it definitely could have been better.
Yeah, there's the contrived argument, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I thought it had at least some redeeming qualities, Like, I could have still probably disagreed with, but understood a 1, but a 0, I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I reserved my 0 for legitimately the worst thing I've ever seen on Digimon.
Which was... What was episode 38?
The episode where we all misgendered Airdramon.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yep, you're right.
Yep.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But,
I am putting this, for the record, in 12 29th place between 22 and 39.
29th, and in terms of our the overall ranking, because it's only so low because I gave it the low mark, I'm happy to put it above all the other ones that got 7 out of 15.
Cool.
Okay.
So I'm trying that down. So we're doing it above all the other ones that got 7 out of 15.
Cool.
Yep. Coolios. So any other thoughts about episode 40 before we move on to 41?
Give me more queer characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in agreement. So in terms of episode 41, so a quick synopsis before we jump into our discussion. So this week had a circus where you get invited to a different circus, and at this other circus you are asked to walk across a tightrope or get eaten by a lion, and if you fall, but it turns out even if you make it to the other side, you get turned into a playing card which screams when it's touched. And that's by Piedmon, which is very cool. So I think Chisai is going to be very happy that Piedmon appeared. So we're getting some Piedmon love, which is good. We also got a Piedmon in a human disguise, which I'm always a big fan of. And so really kind of invites herself to the circus by taking an invitation. And then when the Digimon...
pretty great.
Yeah, it was pretty great. She was like, nope, I'll take this, but you're not a chosen child. Oh, but I am. Like, they could have added in a funny line there, but maybe the double
That would have been pretty good.
But maybe
certainly.
Maybe they'll call it, like, Digidestined. Like, you're not Digidestined, and she'll be like, yes, I am. But, anyway, so the Digimon show up at her house, realise that she's not one of the chosen ones, but they see she's got a Digimon, and they end up kidnapping Angoramon, and then turning Angoramon into a really cute little bunny rabbit, which was really sweet. I'm like, oh, he's a little bunny.
What was accomplished in kidnapping Angoramon besides just making it really clear that the kids would show back up again in a minute?
They wanted to make him into a mascot to lure more kids in or something, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess like a prop, like, pulling this Rabbitmon out of the hat or something, I guess.
Something along those lines, yeah.
Okay.
So...
a little contrived, but whatever.
Oh yeah, a lot of Ghost Game, as much as I love Ghost Game, has a lot of like weird contrived things, like, hey, why are we doing this? Oh, because...
Remember that time that Kiyoshiro invented a nuclear power plant? Or something?
Yeah, and also we wrote Kiyoshiro out this episode, which is fine. He just didn't want to go the circus.
Twice in a row for the same reason, which is interesting.
Which I guess it's on brand for his character that he's kind of too scared to participate in the Mon of the Week.
And you know what? I'll even give him. Sometimes you just, gotta go prepare for the forum that you're giving a talk at.
Yeah.
And sometimes he's just not interested in doing the Mon of the Week. He's like, oh, no, I'll sit it out. But,
I got real life now. If only Hero could have things to do some week.
Right.
I don't know why, but why didn't Jellymon show up? Because we've shown that Jellymon just goes without Kiyoshiro quite often. Like, last week's episode happened.
We did see that she just went off with him. Which, that was fine.
But she was saying how much she wanted to go to the circus. She was like begging at Kiyoshiro and like pulling at him, saying, "I want to go to the circus."
We'll split him in two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, so we get Airdramon again, which is great, and really Gamamon and Hiro are taken to this circus. And then I got really worried because Hiro's like, hey, Piedmon, have you ever been challenged by a human before? And I was like, great, Hiro's going to be the human of the week. But it turned out to be, no, really. Like, really was like, no.
Really got to be the wieners.
So that was really great. I was really surprised about that because I was ready for it to be Hiro. And then they play a card game where you both flip a card and then whoever gets the highest one wins. And Piedmon ends up losing, and he reverts all the children who were turned into playing cards back to humans. And then Mephistomon's like, hey, I don't like this, but then we only have 30 seconds left, so I'm just kind of going to have an evolution.
It's just an excuse to do the evolution.
It's just an excuse to have Lamortmon show up and then kind of just, like, growl at Mephistomon. And that's how that happened.
Do some attempted stabbings.
So, discussion time. What were our highlights this week?
This episode's for you, Chi.
Yep. A salute to Chi.
Yeah, basically, it was the Chi episode.
There were also some really good sound effects this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, if I didn't already have a pretty great text shown, I would probably use the kids getting transformed sound as my new text notification.
That was pretty cool, and the animation was pretty great too. Like, it was an episode that looked... Like, a lot of Ghost Game episodes look good.
Yeah.
Like, big fan of that. So yeah, the sounds were good, the animation was good, so that's good. And of course we had Airdramon, which is always a highlight for me.
Yeah, although Airdramon should be seen and not heard, apparently.
Yeah, it's Airdramon, not Herdramon. I appreciate you laughed. That did not deserve a laugh.
It didn't, that's why I laughed.
It sure didn't.
Yeah, it sure. It was like the most, like, it's the biggest stretch I've ever done. Like, I'm surprised I didn't pull something with that stretch.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so Airdramon exists, which is cool, and as I mentioned, really getting to do something was great. I was so worried that it was going to be Hero. I kind of like how she butted in. She was like, "No, I will do the card game.
This is my thing."
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that Ruli got to do a thing this episode. Not even just a thing; she got to do the thing.
She got to matter for the first time in like
way too
kind
long.
of a while.
Yeah, since the werewolf episode.
Yep.
I think.
Making the kids walk the tightrope to their deaths was pretty hardcore.
That was cool.
And I liked the touch that the cards, like, screamed a little when Ruli touched them.
I was honestly surprised when Marie didn't have to, like, touch a bunch of cards and find the kid that was least scared, who was probably going to be the ace or whatever.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was expecting.
Yeah,
But that probably would have been grounds for cheating or whatever.
Something.
Yeah, otherwise it seemed like too much just like a game of chance. Which I guess is the point.
Apparently it was.
Yeah. But I kind of wish that she had to, like, listen to the heart of the cards and be like, oh, this kid is saying, I'm an 8, or whatever, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. That could have been interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I honestly thought it was going to go in that direction when she touched them and they started screaming, but it was only the first few times, apparently, that they screamed.
We did still get some heart of the cards nonsense, though, of just don't hesitate, grab one, and that'll make it be an ace.
Yep.
Yeah, which is like, she got very lucky there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like, what, the second or third time or more now that we've had a villain who just kind of left,
conceded,
but kind of very strongly implied, oh, but I'll be back, you know?
See, I this is one of my lowlights, but this was just too much like the Lesmon episode.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to think of. I couldn't remember the
like,
name of it.
It had the exact same premise of a place. You don't know when it's going to show up. You don't know why it's going to show up. You don't know, like, whereabouts it's going to show up. It's just going to show up. And there's a Digimon there, and it's a Ruli episode. And the Digimon of the week is just going to, at the end, revert everything back to normal, but imply that they're still evil.
Yep.
Yeah.
It had the exact same flow as that, and that's probably why I didn't necessarily like this episode too much, because it just felt like what we've already had, and I think that's the problem with a Ghost Game having so many episodes that just Monster of the Week. There's only so many stories that they can do before they
I did forget, I forgot the, like, degree of overlap between the two episodes. It's a
very cookie-cutter episode.
Yeah, I remembered, like, oh yeah, we did, like, a circus before, didn't we? And we did, baddie who implies that they're still bad at the end, but leaves because of rules or whatever. But the fact that it was also a Ruli episode and also a circus that just showed up in random locations, who knows how to get there.
Yeah, it's
but
exactly
not the same circus. It's funny that it happened twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so similar to Lesmon, the episode, just... To the,
and you could have connected them in some way, but
I honestly thought they were going to have Lesmon showing up.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to say for my highlight, is that it kind of seems like they're leading to maybe all of them being in cahoots, but they sure didn't do anything with that this episode, at least. They at most left a little breadcrumb to associate later, but...
We are making Hero slowly realize that his dad is just hyper dead.
Yeah.
That was last episode, silly.
Oh, you're right. I watched both of them about an hour ago and got that part mixed up. So, highlight for last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Hero really spoke this episode, really. He just kind of existed.
Yeah. He still got too much screen time, TBH, but...
Yeah.
I liked, my last highlight is I liked Piedmon's whole, the swords will stab either my allies or your allies, depending upon who wins.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought that was
really
a nice
cool.
little touch.
Stuck to the wager motif that, if he's gonna have a thing for no real reason, at least he's sticking to the thing.
Yeah.
It looked good too when they were like attacking the lackeys,
Light swords
attacking
and,
Battleground.
yeah.
Yeah. And I guess we got Taboo-Catmon, which is actually a really old Digimon design. And I always thought that it was the ugliest Digimon I've ever seen in my life, but it actually looked pretty good in this episode. I was surprised.
Which one was that?
It was the grey cat.
Okay.
It's I've always considered it the ugliest Digimon, but in this episode, I don't know, it was just drawn fine. It just kind of looked like a cartoon cat. It didn't look weird like the usual way that it's drawn. So that was cool. Also, we got Flay Wizardmon, who is super cool. Another Armor Evolution Digimon that didn't really get much attention ever. So that's exciting.
I had to explain to Chloe what a hybrid spirit and that whole deal was.
There's also last episode, but...
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
it was vaguely related since Armor episodes came up. Or
Yeah.
the Armor Evolutions.
Yep.
It's late, okay?
It's fine. In terms of another highlight, I mean, it's not really a real highlight, but is this our first Mega Digimon that we've had appear?
I think so.
Like, I
Couldn't
know
tell
we've had
ya.
Perfects, but Piedmon's a Mega Digimon, and it's kind of... I know, I guess it makes sense why we didn't fight Piedmon, because he's a Mega.
I sort of wish they would have had to try and then be forced to play the game when that's what he wants to do, but we didn't have pacing for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
do we
that
have
covers
any
all
other...
my highlights.
Yeah, I don't have any other highlights. What about you, Quinn?
I think I'm good.
Okay, lowlights, I already mentioned the fact that it just felt like the Fellasmon episode. The more I think about it, the more it's just like that. And I guess also a little bit like the Myotismon episode that we had.
Got some flavor of that.
Which is, I don't know, I wish there was less overlap between the episodes. But again, it makes sense. We've got so many Monster of the Week episodes, they kind of got to be similar in some ways.
They could have not done a circus twice, though, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it wasn't a circus, it was a fortune teller's tent, which is just, it's circus-ish, like.
Okay,
It's-
yeah,
yeah.
you're right.
Technically distinct, but very adjacent.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I wish they had a fortune teller at the circus that they walked past, and I wish that they just saw, like, it doesn't even have to be, like, it just can be an Easter egg in the background, but I really wish there was a fortune teller's tent and had Fellasmon working there.
Mm-hmm.
Just to show
quote
that
my
he didn't
roommate,
go.
if he's listening to this, which I'm sure he isn't,
He's
but
definitely not.
it's one of those distinction without a difference situations, I feel like, you know?
Yeah.
Fortune teller, circus, you kind of get one with the other most of the time.
Especially once you add in, mind control.
Yeah.
Yep.
A game of chance you definitely agreed to when you clicked our EULA.
Anyway, I had a minor lowlight in the sense of it would have been nice if any of Ruli's friends had actually mattered this episode.
Yeah, they kind of
I
just
forgot to mention that one.
Yeah, they existed when they went to the normal circus, but then never again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Belated highlight. Rury's fun with the purple dress outfit thing. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
I
also
love
liked
her
a girl
friends.
who was almost cosplaying Ash Ketchum. Another lowlight I had was, which unfortunately was one of your highlights, Air, was that we got good old Airdramon the Mute bus this episode, and I was just kind of like, why?
Well,
I get that they gotta get there fast, but it's not like Airdramon would have had any better idea than the kids where the circus was, you know?
Yeah, because it
Or
appears
we
randomly.
haven't
And
just
and
had
you don't
the
know where.
kids be at a power plant in the Arctic or whatever.
I mean, that is a good point. I guess if you're looking from overhead, then I guess it kind of makes sense that you'd want a flying Digimon.
It does.
So you
Maybe,
can
but
try to
it seems
find
like they were just on a, as the crow flies straightest path, they already know where it was sort of flight.
But they don't. I don't
And that
think
might
they
have just
did.
been my impression.
I think they.
It
Just
looks
got
like they
lucky
were
and
just
found
flying straight, but I might have been wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like one of the things they mentioned about the circus is that it appears randomly, and you don't know when it's going to appear.
They sure
Oh,
did
they
mention
definitely
that.
did say that, but I feel like when we saw them flying, they were making a beeline
There
for
definitely
it.
was no dialogue about how they found it.
Yep.
I want to believe that
But-
they just lucked out and they were just flying overhead and they saw it.
Sure.
Sure, they could have
It's-
said even anything to that effect, but...
It feels like, because they're always so, strapped for time, I guess, it honestly felt like if they just had a moment of investigation where, really had to, look on the internet for, rumors and find where it was last and sort of do something there, but that would be if it was a 40-minute episode, because it's not.
Agency with the plot.
Yeah. Which, again, it's something I've said basically most episodes of Ghost Game, but if it was just a little bit longer, every episode would be good, because every episode feels like it's just missing just something. Like, just maybe 10 minutes of more exploration or more explanation of why a Digimon does that, and a bit less plot convenient, oh, they don't like that? Oh, okay, my
Plus
bad.
They keep having to cut violence toward, what's-his-face?
What's his face?
Pervy friend.
Oh, yeah, the friend. I forgot his name. Like,
yeah, we keep cutting the
that.
scenes where everyone, hurts him.
Yeah. My other lowlight, which I guess kind of comes from my thought that I just had about the runtime, and I feel like the episode felt weirdly convenient, especially the end of the battle, just kind of like, oh, we have to do an evolution, oh, we don't have time to actually do a battle. Like, it felt kind of
yeah, they could have
easy.
just skipped the whole thing and done something else with that time.
Yeah. And I mean, it's only an extra 30 seconds, but they've done more stuff with less time before, I feel like.
They have to be contractually obligated to put in the evolution sequence for toys, merchandising
We already had one. We had Gamamon evolving to Battle Gamamon. There's our obligatory evolution.
You're right. Okay.
And then we have Angoramon evolving to Simbar Angoramon, and Simbar Angoramon evolving to Lamortmon. So, why we have two evolutions that meant nothing. Like, I understand, like, just having the Battle Gamamon because you need the Digimon to fight, and they're kind of fighting, and that's fine. That fight in the background felt like it was paced fine. It's just that the end of the episode just being, like, Piedmon being like, oh, okay, I lost. I'll put the humans back to normal. Oh, Mephistomon apparently doesn't like that. Oh, well, too bad, because we only have enough time for an evolution and not anything else there. Which also brings me into my next lowlight, which was when Angoramon sees Mephistomon, Angoramon was like, oh my gosh, it's Mephistomon! Like, he seemed, like, scared and surprised that Mephistomon was there, and I was expecting, like, Mephistomon to mean something.
Matter.
Oh, it didn't matter at all. Like, hopefully it comes back in another episode, but who's to say with Ghost Game?
Also, just the repeated stabbing at the air because, we don't have time for this fight to mean anything, but we still have to get some attacking in.
Yeah. Like, this episode just felt like a lot of what I have has a problem of Ghost Game. This episode has, which is just like, well, we don't have enough time to write things in, so we're going to have everything real plot convenient. Like, Edgemon finding the circus pretty much immediately, despite it being a randomly appearing thing. The battle being fairly easy to solve, and then Mephistomon kind of looking like it's going to attack and then decide not to because Lamortmon said no. It just felt like this episode could have been really good if it was a little bit longer. Yeah.
I feel like this episode could have been really, really good if we hadn't already had the Postmon episode that was so similar.
Yeah, and that too, and that's probably my main lowlight, is that it's so much like that episode.
And honestly, now that you've pointed that out, it's definitely dragging down my mental rating for it.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because I think I liked this episode more than that other one, but, like, now this one suffers from the fact that they've already done it.
Yeah, exactly. This is probably a better implementation, but you don't do it twice in, 10 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, it's nice to have Ruli existing as a character and being the one to have the card game fight. Also, it wasn't 10 weeks ago. The Fortune Teller Manor was episode 15.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a hot minute ago.
Fair enough.
Especially because remember there was there were no episodes for like 2 months.
Hero should have been a card. Hero should have been the ace.
Yeah, if we had Hero turn into a card, and then when Ruli is drawing the cards and she hears Hero's voice and she picks him.
That would have been good!
Like, that would have been fine. Or even just, like, turn Angoramon into a card instead of a rabbit.
That could have been fine, but please let Hero get fridged for a bit so that, someone else can have to deal with things.
I mean, I thought Hero was fine in this episode. Like, he just was there. He was a supporting character, which is fine, because in his episodes, Ruli and Kyosho are usually delegated to that. So I didn't mind Hero too much this episode. But if we had the characters being turned into cards, and that's why she ends up winning, because she chooses the Hero or the Angoramon card or something, I don't know.
Or, hears them speak to her and,
Yeah,
a
little more than just picked the one on the left.
Because she was told not to hesitate.
Yeah, Hero told her to pick
one already.
One of them, yeah,
Hurry
basically.
up.
But what if she chose wrong?
Yep.
Well,
she used the heart of the cards or whatever.
Good thing Hero Protagonist had given her words of encouragement so that she couldn't choose wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course, the magic hero encouragement. But, any other lowlights?
Nothing specific coming to mind.
Yeah. Nah, my hero should have been a card, would have been, you could have made the episode a good bit better by having significantly less hero for a reason.
So, favourite character, mine was Ruli. Chloe, who was yours?
This one's for you, Chi. My favorite character was Piedmon.
Totally valid. And Quinn?
I think I am also going with, I'm torn between them, but I think I'm going to go with Ruri.
That's fair. We do like our Ruli on this podcast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Rating out of 5, I'm giving it a 2.5 out of 5. It's just kind of, it's just a mid-episode.
It's a bit of a flop,
liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't terrible. It's not like, it's not the worst thing, but it's not the best thing. It's perfectly just it's just average, just kind of sits in the middle because it's just there. I would have liked it more if it had, it felt a bit more unique and it wasn't just the Lesmon episode again with different characters. But I did like that we had really actually do something. So yeah, it just kind of sits in the middle. It's got some issues, but they're not too glaring, but they're glaring enough that it isn't, one of the best episodes or anything. Chloe, what would you give this out of 5?
So I was originally torn between a 4.5 and a 5, and then you pointed out that it's an episode that we've already done before, basically.
I'm
and
sorry.
Now I can't feel good about giving it quite that high, so I think I'll give it a 4. It was still a pretty good episode. It just had been done before,
Yeah, which, again, that's kind of the problem of being episodic, that sometimes episodes might just be the same, or similar-ish. Quinn, what's your rating?
I believe I'm going to give it a 3.5.
Yep.
It's not bad. I enjoyed it. It's getting some extra points for delighting Chi. And, yeah.
Totally valid. That means that it gets an overall rating of 10 out of 15. 10 is a unique value, apparently. Yes? Yes. So I do have 10.5s. So, while I do my brain, I've just completely forgotten how to use Excel, apparently, so that's cool and fun. So that was 10.5, 10.5, what's episode 10? Okay, so it is in 30th place between episode 19, The Witching Hour, and episode 10, The Game of Death, which I liked, but nobody else did. So, yeah.
I forgot to give mine.
Huh? We have not done rankings
Yeah, sorry,
yet.
I got distracted figuring out where to put mine in.
No, we do the overall ranking because...
That's right.
Quinn.
Once I have everyone else's. So yeah, it got a 10 out of 15 is kind of reasonable, but it shows how much we've enjoyed all of Ghost Game, where even this that got a 10 out of 15 is still 30th. It's still quite far down.
Yeah.
So, and that's pretty good. Though actually it won't be... I just remembered I haven't put in... last week's episode yet, so that will be somewhere lower, I think. Yeah, but I'll do that later.
If you gave it a 0.
Yeah. Anyway, so in terms of my own ranking, I put it in 36th place, so underneath episode 6, The Cursed Song, but above episode 34, Wall Crawlers. And Chloe, do you know where you're putting it in your ranking?
Yeah, I'm putting it in 19th place, above last week's Spiral Beach, but below Cannibal
26.
Mansion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Quinn?
I am putting mine in 26th place, fittingly just above episode 15, The Fortune Teller's Manor.
Yes. So, I was wondering how that would rank compared to this week's episode, since it was fairly similar. For comparison, in the overall ranking, it got episode 15 got 20. So this is apparently worse.
I gave
than
them
that.
both the same rating.
That's completely fair. But so
Therefore, showing that Quinn's the only objective one among us.
Exactly.
yeah. Do we have any miscellaneous thoughts?
When we were watching episode 40, Quinn had mentioned that, it's gotta suck to be Hero because his dad is definitely dead, and his mom just doesn't really seem to be all that interested, or whatever. Yep. And so I had to point out that Hero's mom only seems uninvolved because she's out here having to work. She's gotta make enough money to cover Hero's school and cover, pay their mortgage without help from his digital deadbeat dad, or DDDD.
Kingdom Hearts digital deadbeat dad.
Mm-hmm.
I would like him to not be dead and to actually come back, but I don't know.
Nah, he's so dead. We had a flashback to them saying, by the way, going to the digital world will burn you burn you to death.
Yeah, that was graphic, and then Hero was like, did he really get there? Like, I don't think he's just trying to blow off some steam, Hero. I think he's dead.
And you had that horrifying thought that hopefully, I think this can't be the case and has perhaps already been established, but do you want to say it?
Yeah, so I briefly was like, oh god, Gamamon's just gonna be, your dad died and turned into a Digi-Egg, and it's Gamamon.
Isn't that exactly what I said at the start of the show?
You did, and I think I'm dismissing it on the basis that Gamamon has pretty specifically said things like, oh yeah, your dad told me blank.
Your dad told me you're my older brother.
We don't know how that he told. It could have been in a voice recording or something.
I mean, you're not wrong. So far, I'm calling it not the most likely theory.
What if it's?
I really hope that's not what it is.
I could maybe see that.
It seems at least more likely than it being Gamamon.
Yeah.
But still not particularly likely, I feel like.
I'm still Detective Pikachuing this theory.
Dad's just dead.
Here's hoping.
Dead or just reincarnated. Maybe he was Bokemon and then Bokemon died.
But certainly not paying the mortgage from the digital world. That's all I'm saying.
You've got a fair point. And, Mom is sending Hero off to private boarding school so
exactly!
That can't be cheap.
Doesn't have to care about him.
Yeah.
So good for Hero's mom for making bank, I guess.
Yeah.
Now that we're done discussing this week's episode, let's move on to Pondering, Predictions, and Postmon Pat. So, first up, we have M over on YouTube, who says that as an older sibling, Gamon's attitude was the most realistic part of the episode. They feel like everyone who doesn't understand this aspect is an only child. Anyways, this one didn't deserve a 0, and they're giving it a 4 out of 5. And yeah, I am an only child, so one of my main complaints, other than it being just the trope, is either that I just don't like the fighting, when they're just fighting for a petty reason. But yeah, one of the reasons I didn't like it was because I felt like Gamamon's reaction was slightly unreasonable. But yeah, I am an only child, so I might just be how I feel about it.
So I would say that it's not completely unrealistic to have that be a starting point. But God, we're significantly through this series, and apparently Gamamon still hasn't learned to communicate meaningfully.
It's just another instance of we cannot decide how mature Gamamon is. He reads the encyclopedia, but also bites tablets and doesn't apologize because he's too embarrassed, and it's
very all over the place. And
I would feel a lot better if they just committed to one or the other instead of giving me this, speculative whiplash.
Yeah, he's got, plot convenient maturity. It changes depending on the plot. I mean, I know it changes when he evolves, and that's fine. That's sort of the case for a lot of Digimon. If they evolve, they grow up effectively.
Yeah.
Well, but even then, he would have had to have read the encyclopedia at some point, and presumably not when he's evolved for battle. I don't think he has a lot of spare time in those instances.
It's just not great.
It changes. It changes depending on if they need him to be just a Digimon or a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying. It's completely plot-driven. There's no, rule that they're following for this.
Yeah.
Oh, and last comment on last week's episode. In Tokyo they make holograms that can eat, huh?
Oh, yeah. I kind of love each episode when they write in a different NPC going, oh, wow, this hologram is so advanced. Even though it looks completely different to the other holograms. They kind of do that in every episode, and it, for some reason, is just really funny as a running gag to me. I'm not even sure if it's meant to be, a funny thing, but it is kind of fun.
Probably?
It's gotta be.
It's like in Atmon, when they'd be like, hey, you related? No, we just look the same. Because they'd be similar looking Atmon.
It's like in Licorice Recoil, when Karumi is like, people who just believe the data are idiots.
Okay.
That's my hawking Licorice Recoil for this episode.
Next, we have Flavian, who says they didn't care for most of the episode, but the redeeming part for them was Hiro talking about the digital gate, hinting that they might finally go to the digital world sometime soon. So that could be cool. I think it was also just like, you die if you go to the digital world, maybe, which could be dark. Next, we have Victor, who says this episode, being based on spirals, might be a slight nod to Junji Ito's work, the Uzumaki, since he tends to use spirals a lot in his manga, to help really push that terror feeling. They also don't know if it's just them, but it feels like they went out of their way to show Calamaramon off. Maybe they're crazy, but they can't think of another Mon of the Week that had so many varied angles. And yeah, Calamaramon looked great in last week's episode.
Yeah, she was girl bossing it up.
Yeah, like, I like her so much more than I did when she was in Digimon Frontier, so big fan of that. Anyway, next we have Lazy Crocodile, who says the episode was okay, and they felt like Gammon was channeling his inner toddler and not wanting to apologise, even if it was his fault. They've seen kids like that, but doesn't surprise them that made it feel somewhat petty, because it was a toddler versus their forgiving dad. And I kind of like, I know what they're saying, but it goes back to what we were saying before about how Gammon kind of has like a sliding scale of age. Like, sometimes he's just is a child, so kind of acts like a child, kind of childish, and that's what the level's called. It's a child-level Digimon. But in other episodes, like last week's episode, acts like a spoiled toddler. So I really wish they had, like, a consistent age that he was meant to be acting, but it just really depends on how the writers feel.
Mm-hmm.
Next we have the Bleach, who says they'll echo some others that Gammon's attitude felt realistic for a child, stubbornly not wanting to apologise and acknowledge what he did was wrong, and then not knowing how to. That didn't feel off to them at all, which is fine. Next we have Narumi.
Accurate, it's just annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And again, I
wish
don't
that
like
this had been in episode 20 instead of episode 40.
Yeah, it honestly feels like if they want to make Gammon appear to be aging, this felt like a weird place to put this episode because it's episode 40, and we've previously had him going on outings by himself, or reading the encyclopedia by himself, or learning more words in English rather than just saying, like, weird words are similar, like champion instead of chocolate and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt like he was maturing, which makes it feel really weird that this episode is episode 40. That's a very good point. It could have been 20 episodes ago, and it probably would have been less annoying because he would be baby. Next we have Narumi, who says that even though this episode has Uzumaki references, they didn't enjoy it as much as they expected because no one felt pain when they got spiraled. And yeah, that's a good point. Everyone seemed okay with being spiraled, just maybe a little bit
very
spooked.
Explicitly, this is weird but not painful, but also potentially deadly.
It's scary. But yeah. I think they wanted to draw the line at just scary and not also agonizing.
Yeah, it looked like it should have been agonizing, but every character that got spiraled seems to just be a little bit weirded out that they were spiraled, but doesn't seem to have any pain about it.
Yeah, and then,
it's a kid's show.
We sure forgot about it immediately.
Next, Ouchmaster says they liked the episode, but they may be biased because Randomon and Calmaramon was their favourite from Frontier. And they're glad that they finally get to have Calmaramon in another speaking role. They're really hoping for Piedmon in the next episode, and yep, you got it, Piedmon was in this episode.
Congratulations.
Next, we have Nathan, who says that they can't be the only person to find it odd that we have had 2 hybrid Digimon, and both are beast spirits. They're also surprised that Angoramon did not go with Ruli, because he had gone with Hiro before. So I guess they just wanted Jellymon to be in the episode, I guess. Which still, it kind of annoys me. Next
episode?
we have...
Jellymon was what?
That's what I'm saying. Jellymon was in the next episode. The last episode.
Yeah,
episode 40. Yeah. Next we have Chi, who would be very happy to watch this week's episode. But in terms of last week, they said that I didn't touch on something that really stuck out to them in the episode, was that Gammon continued to be ignored by people who see him. It's so weird that he can say that he's a hologram while being wholly physical and tangible, and no one really questions it. You could argue that a kid is a kid, but surely even a child knows hologram aren't physical. And she took Gammon home with her. So her parents...
with them.
Yeah, I thought that was weird too. Like, I thought that holograms in this universe kind of exist, but they've got to come from somewhere, and then Gamon's separated from Hiro, and he's able to like hang out. That felt kind of weird.
That's cool. They just got better ones in Tokyo.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we have Mystic Digital, who says that they don't really understand the issues that I had with the episode. Gamon is a child, and he kind of has, like, the cognitive ability of a 3-year-old. Which, in episode 40, yes,
Sometimes.
he did.
Asterisk.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, asterisk. But, yeah, the problem isn't that he is a 3-year-old in terms of intelligence or in terms of ability. It's just because it's a sliding scale. Like, he consistently changes how old he acts. So... If he was consistently a 3-year-old, I wouldn't have had a problem with the episode. The main reason was that his reactions seemed out of character for how old he's been presented as recently. Like, sure, if he's always acting like a 3-year-old, then it wouldn't be an issue. But because he was acting like a 3-year-old in this episode, when
after having gone off on errands, and now we can trust him to go, to the store by himself. Yeah, it's just whiplash.
Yeah. Next we have Digital Hazard, who says that they're enjoying Ghost Game, but it's getting difficult to recommend to returning fans since we still have no idea what the point is. They are, however, thirsty for the plot, but the Scooby-Doo vibe was fun, but episodes are starting to feel pointless. And yeah, I totally agree. Like, I'm loving Ghost Game, but I definitely agree that some episodes just feel, like, I guess skippable, but that's not necessarily bad. It just means that you don't necessarily have to watch every episode, and that's what episodic is, so that's...
I wish I didn't feel like we were just gonna get, 4 or 5 episodes right at the end that wrap up the entire plot.
Yeah, which we've had that before in Young Hunters Who Leapt Through Time. That series, even though it's a lot shorter, it's only like 25 episodes, they wrapped up the plot in the last few episodes, and every other episode was just the monster of the week. So I can see them kind of doing that for Ghost Game and just having like a plot arc at the end. But, I mean, I don't mind.
I don't love it.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Anyway, so what were our thoughts about the series so far?
Pivot away from the episodicness at least a little bit,
I'm sure they will when they're good and ready.
We're fine to leave Espimon in. We can have multiple episodes where Espimon is around and ready to tell people what the plot of the story is, except he doesn't feel like it because...
He's not the real hero.
He doesn't accept government-issued ID.
Yeah, that feels like kind of like, hey, remember, there is somewhat plot. Like, he's just there to exist as a, hey, look, there is plot. Not here, not in this episode, not today, but, it's around. I'm gonna go
Plot
hang out and find plot.
Plot tomorrow, never plot today.
Yeah.
I'm glad, in retrospect, that at least... if memory serves, Espimon wasn't really in this episode. At the end of the last episode, he was just back in Hero's room eating a rice cracker, and I was like, damn it. But he at least didn't have any meaningful thing that he did in this episode. Was he even in it?
Yeah, he was in the episode. He appeared at the start. Like, he was just kind of hanging out while...
in some frames, but...
Yeah, and then later on he said, like, when Hero was going off to... go to the circus, Espimon says, I'm going to continue looking for the real hero.
Mm-hmm.
And that was him in this episode. Yeah.
Yeah. So...
just again, being around and like, yep, I could definitely dump some plot deeds.
But not today.
Yep.
I'm still wanting to know what the story is with those dark Digimon, like the Black Tail Monuva, Black Agumon, and the Black Gargomon that we saw.
Yeah.
I really would like more information about them. And it's kind of weird that we haven't.
We keep not getting looks pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels weird that we haven't gotten plot for so long. Like, I miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next week's episode is episode 42, Human Hunter. Do we have any predictions? Because this looks scary.
It seems like it could be good. It seemed like, from what the little teaser sounded like, it sounded like there's kind of be a theme of, like, how much would you sell out to save your own skin? And I think it has potential to be one of those, the horror of real life sort of things that I like so much.
Yeah, the monster is man.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think I say this quite often, but I love, like, the sassy voice that the narrator has. It feels so passive-aggressive and sassy, and I kind of love him. Like, everything just seems like
wrong.
A passive-aggressive, vague threat. I'm just like, yes! Yes, Queen
vaguely
Slay.
jokey, vaguely threatening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, big fan of that. I'm just looking forward to next week's episode because it looks creepy, it looks scary, and I really like when Ghost Game does creepy scary.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it looks like we're putting humans at risk again, which is something that this show is not scared of.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm a big
Well,
fan of
that
that.
depends on if you mean any meaningful risk.
Yeah.
I guess we have killed some people. Some people have just outright died.
That's true.
But a lot of weeks we just kind of unhurt everyone.
Remember the guy who burnt to death?
I do remember that.
That was cool.
That was cool. That was sick.
But yeah, it is a good point
That was a good episode.
Sometimes that no one is really hurt by anything. Some people are eaten by trees, and some people are burnt to death. But typically, a lot of things are reversible.
There should be so many funerals.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a lot of the time they are just kind of reverted. Like in this case, they were just reverted back from cards to sleeping in bed. So could be all a dream, I guess.
Yeah,
horrific
although
joint
imagine
dream.
that national news story: 50 missing children turn up in their beds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Anyway.
but
With no memory of what they were doing.
horrifying.
All on the same night.
Yeah, they went missing over the course of weeks, then all turned up in their beds. I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was Piedmon.
Mm-hmm.
It's always Piedmon. But do we have any other predictions for next week's episode?
No, not really.
Because I have no idea who this Digimon could be. Maybe I don't think it was shown in the preview, but I have no idea who it could be.
Yeah.
I think it's Blue Firemon.
Apologies, I apparently forgot to plug in my good mic, so my audio quality is going to be trash this week.
It's okay. I'll leave that
trash.
I'll leave that part in as an explanation then if it is. But I think it sounds fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we did our mic test earlier. It was okay.
Yeah.
In terms of Blue Firemon, that's not a Digimon. However, Blue Meramon is. So I will allow it.
That is true, and is a Digimon made of blue fire.
I can't believe that my rule of you can just say noun-mon has failed me.
A little bit.
Did you see that there's a new Greymon? It's Greymon.
Air, do you think I would have seen that there's a new Greymon?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I actually did not see that there's a new Greymon.
It's okay. It's Greymon, Blue, X antibody. You fair? It looks very cool.
What are the parentheses like on that?
It's parentheses blue, and then another set of parentheses X antibody.
Oh, so they're not nested.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, are they nested or are they subsequent?
No, I've posted a picture of a Greymon
like
blue X antibody in the Discord chat, but it's just Greymon blue, but with pointy bits.
Yep.
Yeah, and X's on the tail for X antibody.
But now Xehanort can follow him.
Ooh.
But
anyway.
yeah. So do we have any other predictions or anything we want to say about Ghost Game for this week?
I predict I'm gonna fall asleep.
Me too.
Okay, so time to wrap this up.
Mm-hmm.
Alright everyone, so thanks for joining us this time. You can join us next time for episode 42, Human Hunter. The link dumps link description, and so are ways that you can contact us and stay updated, such as leaving us a comment on this episode on YouTube to join the conversation, and for a full list of ways to find the podcast across the internet, such as YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter, head over to Linktree LostinTranslationmon, and I'm going to spell that because it's linktr.ee/LostinTranslationmon. So that's where you can find all the ways you can stalk me across the internet. If you enjoy the podcast or videos or even my silly little tweets, you can show your support by signing up on Patreon and get some cool rewards and help us hit milestones, so check that out if you haven't already. And of course, thank you to our card supporters on Patreon, Stephen Reeves, who is 164 on our cover own, Karawashi, Chisai, who you can follow on Twitter at Chisai236, Neoboo, who says you should follow Chisai on Twitter at Chisai236, Lizmet, who is Lekmon on Tumblr, Nicholas, Emery from Gonal Hunting, a Hunter Rewatch podcast, Magnus, Lucas, Jason105, Patrick, Jason, Grey Tanuki, Shelby, Digital Hazard, who is on Twitch at The Digital Hazard, Dedicated Gazi, Alemist, Michael, Teropimon, and Vmon Tamer. You can also make one donation on PayPal, which you found linked in the description. It's paypal.me/Ergemon. You can also donate to me on my Ko-fi account, which is ko-fi.com/Airdra. So thanks for listening, and thanks to Chloe and Quinn for joining me this week. Have y'all been doing anything cool lately?
Semester started for me, so...
Been learning some more Japanese slowly.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm learning how to read hiragana. It's going
That's
slow,
cool.
but it's going.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to just to study and learn something. Learning things are cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
So, so thanks for joining us for another podcast, and we will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.